I guess I can go next. It's too quiet in here. So
Yeah.
I'm Patrice Barry. Can you hear me okay? Because it says my connection's unstable.
Yeah, you're coming through.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
storm knocked me down.
There we go. All right.
Okay, so anyway, I've been in IT and project management itself for over 20 years. I also am a Scrum Master and I have my Safe POPM certification, and I've done all kinds of projects, whether they're waterfall and large projects down to Scrum projects, the whole gamut throughout my industry career, various industries. Um, and so I'm just here to learn more about Agile and to most certainly, gain knowledge and give back in this times we're in today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good.
So it's gone, Jim.
Yeah, my name is Jim Mason. I've worked in IT, I guess, longer than everybody on the planet's been alive. That's what I tell my grandkids. So my first pet was a dinosaur. But my experiences covers 3 different areas. I've been an architect in a variety of different IT areas. I've been a project manager, and I've also been an IT director, a director of infrastructure, that kind of stuff. And on the Agile side, I was very lucky. I stumbled into Agile before Agile was invented. I worked for a company called OTI. So if you look at the Agile Manifesto and who signed it, Dave Thomas was probably the best practitioner of Agile back in the early 90s. And so I was lucky enough to work for him. And that was really got me interested in that. And then from there, I've been focused on it for the last 25 years. But on the other side of the coin, I'm not at all certified. So there you go.
Oh,
That's great.
well, I'm sure you could teach us a thing or two. Did we miss anybody?
I need to connect with you on LinkedIn. Sounds like you got a lot of good stuff.
William. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
Hi, my name is William Sherman. Jim, I'll give you a run for your money on time in the IT industry. Compare notes on TRS 80s and stuff. I've been in IT for about 40 years now, and I've done everything from development, project management, and all the areas in between. And I'm here just to learn everything I can, because this is one industry you can never stop learning in.
Amen. I agree with that for sure. All right.
Sometimes I think I should have been like a plumber or something like that. There would have been less to learn.
You're still learning in that industry too. All right, Joe, you want to get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So thanks everybody for that quick intro. It's good to start to know each and every one of you. So just to, what Rick was saying, we're putting together this program. It's called CAL, which is a certified Agile leader program that is by Scrum Alliance. And so we've been helping out with these sections, and we kind of want to get some feedback from you guys and some help on, what does it take to be a leader, and what kind of approach or what kind of skills is needed to develop leadership, right? So these are the questions we want to start off with.
And we have a poll.
Yep, we have a poll. We'd like for you guys to help out there. So what are the skills, number one, what are the skills that are needed to be a good leader? And then of course, number 2, what does it take to develop these leadership skills?
The link to the poll is in the chat. Oh, thank you, Ms.
Yes, of course. Yes, the link to the poll is in the chat, so everyone can click on it, and we can start this poll.
Yeah, so just what comes to mind? The first question: what skills are needed to be a good leader? See what you guys think. We'll give a couple minutes on this.
A couple of minutes for this.
Definitely emotional intelligence, listening, sure.
Social,
Self-awareness.
listening, emotional intelligence is coming up a couple of times.
Did you see self-awareness there?
Oh, I like purpose,
Yeah, purpose,
focus.
priorities.
Self-awareness is a component of emotional intelligence.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Are we have more, or because we've got, I put it for 2 minutes, we're a few seconds.
All right, give it another
All
minute.
right.
We'll wrap it up.
Sound good? It's like emotional intelligence, kind of beat it out, which you're right, involves a whole lot of things. Self-awareness is one of them.
And self-management. Those are the two components of emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
communication. It's a good one. And I like how you guys put listener, because a lot of times I think it's really important for, at least for my leadership style, is I tend to listen first before I interject, because I want to know what's going on, what you guys are thinking, or what, who I'm working with and what they're thinking, so I can, come back and have a good conversation.
Okay. So
All right.
priorities.
Okay, so looking at our second
Yep.
question.
Our second question.
So what does it take to develop true leadership skills? What is the road to greatness?
Yes.
How do we get
That's a
there?
good way to put it. The road to greatness. I like that.
Focus, desire. Oh, absolutely humble.
Humble. Yes. Humility for sure.
Nobody ever thinks about that. Intent. Sure.
Desire, focus, humble, intent, experience. Nice. Okay, what do you guys think about those comments? You agree? You disagree? Like it.
So when you guys say experience, can you break that down a little bit? Like, what kind of experience are we talking about? Like, what kind of experience makes a leader?
Actually, so my final point was really LOPM, which I developed. So people in the past occasionally have accused me of being intelligent only because I did something correct. But I usually have to point out that that was the fourth time I did it. I was wrong the first 3 times. So then I figured out what real intelligence is something called LOPM, which is learning from other people's mistakes instead of your own. So it's great to learn from your own mistakes, but ideally, that's a painful way, an expensive way to become educated. The better thing is if you can learn from other people's mistakes, which is why coming here, reading books like emotional intelligence, all that other stuff is actually productive as an exercise, because it means hopefully I can improve with, in a sense, less at a lower cost.
That's a great way to think of it. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing. How do you, okay, so here's my question. How do you get that, or how do you learn about other people's mistakes? Is it through networking or talking about it?
Well, through actually the easier, so we all have different ways of communicating. My strength is honestly reading things. So I tend to read an incredible amount and find out a lot of things that way. But I also have direct experience, not just on projects, but I would say I can point to the 3 best teachers I've had for, in a sense, learning how to work with people effectively. And it had 0 to do with project management courses and certifications and experience at IBM or anywhere else. It was basically coaching a women's softball team, teaching kindergarten for 3 years, and working as a house parent. And all 3 of those experiences exceeded anything else I've ever known in the professional world on teaching me how to work with people.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. Very nice.
That was very good. Thank you for sharing that. Because a lot of times you do learn your leadership skills outside of work, like here with volunteering or with your children at home, or in your case, coaching.
Yeah. All right. So looking at some of the answers, discipline, learning from others, like we talked about. Oh, sorry, I lost it.
So
desire.
what we wanted to do was talk about leadership styles and introduce some leadership styles that we put together. And based on these answers really kind of go across all of the leadership styles that we're going to be talking about. And Nelu, if you can go to the next exercise. So we have a mural board, and we have some leadership styles on that mural board, and we're going to do a collaborative exercise to put together those styles, really based off of a lot of what you guys were saying. You know, everything you answered really kind of took us across all of those leadership styles. So yeah, the link is in the chat. And if everybody clicked on the link.
I think it's trying to take me there.
And I can call
So yeah,
everybody.
hopefully this will be something kind of fun for you guys to work on. You guys like puzzles?
Yeah. So we've got these puzzles, and we gave you a hint for each one. So we've got the 3 leadership styles: tactical, strategic, and visionary. And together we can, you have to click on the little arrow. You see the arrow at the top for select? You click that, you should be able to drag a piece. I don't know if you can see me dragging a piece to put it in the puzzle.
I actually logged in through my cell phone. I wasn't able to unlock the screen though.
Are you guys all here? Let me try it again. I lose you, Joe, you gotta take over.
Yeah.
So we were thinking maybe no more than 10 minutes, we should be able to get this puzzle together. We gave you
if
some
you're-
hints.
Sorry, someone was saying that they couldn't get it through the cell phone. I'm probably the same way. So I would say if you're on your cell phone, you can't get to the Miro, just just watch the shared.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll just kind of watch it.
Can everybody get there? I'm sorry, I went out and back in again, and that storm is here, so that may happen a couple of times.
Huh. Can everybody see that? See the 3 different categories? There's tactical, there's strategic, and then there's visionary.
So if you just click on the select, you can move we want you to move the pieces around together and try to put the puzzle together.
Yeah, in the right section.
So may I ask what the objective is besides putting together the puzzle?
Well, the in picture is a visual for each one of the leadership styles.
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about it.
And then you're going to see that some of the things that were in the word clouds actually relate to some of these leadership styles. And we gave you a hint is to keep the colors together.
Yeah, that's the easy thing. If you put all the colors together, you should be able to create a picture.
Taking it easy on them, giving them the color and everything.
Yeah, well, we're on a time schedule.
I didn't start the timer, so let me.
Oh no.
Okay, I'll take a couple of minutes off. Should be
say,
done in a few minutes. Yeah, we're going to be done in a few
Wow.
minutes.
They're going quick.
Yeah,
It's a race, I guess.
I like the mural board because it's interactive. Everybody can participate. It looks like a corner piece. Cool, look at that.
You guys are good.
This one is a corner piece somewhere.
What about that bottom right in visionary? I don't know if that goes there. much time we got?
Oops. 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy to get one on top of the other. I think we're missing a piece here. Oh, here it is. Almost there. And then, Nilu, if you can make it bigger so we can see the pictures.
We can also, you know,
Almost there. Okay.
all right.
I don't know about this one. This one looks off.
So let me ask you guys a question. So the 3 different styles: strategic, visionary, and tactical. So what would you guys say that you're more, where your leadership style falls more into play, or what do you think, is one better than the other?
Let's put it this way. In my experience in projects, I would say that all 3 of those have value at different points in the life cycle of a project, typically. Most of my situations that were challenging in a project were really about, I'll call it making delivery real, if I can put it in a context. And then that required higher tactical skills and certainly lower visionary skills. So I think my experience was I needed vision, or somebody needed vision to start. We needed a strategic view to figure out how the investment's going to fit into the larger context. But then the execution side of it needed, I'll call it, an awful lot of tactical skill to get through it from the team.
Okay. That's good. Any other comments?
But yeah, any other comments? Visionary, anybody have a visionary leadership style or have seen and can speak to?
But these are the leadership styles, right? Visionary leaders, strategic leaders, and tactical leaders, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we really wanted to show was, once we put the puzzle together, you can see how each one of them are a little bit different. The styles are different.
Yeah, so look, just kind of looking at it real quick. You know, tactical. What does tactical mean? You know, it's the hero, right? Comes in, it's very smart, direct and control, usually 1-on-1. You know, it's more of a traditional role. Traditional managers win, lose. You know, looking at people, not necessarily involving people, just kind of looking at the problems and trying to solve the problems. And then with strategic, you know, it's about goals and motivating. You know, it's my way, results focus. You know, people are pawns, try to come up with a strategy, or it's very competitive in a strategic approach. And then a visionary, you know, is a little bit involving people, about coaching, inspiring, and, you know, creating a vision. It's about purpose, building trust, curiosity, seeking out feedback rather than, you know, not listen to anybody. It's about collaboration. So what would you say, out of these 3 different approaches, what would you think is more of an agile approach?
I think
Depends if you're working
visionary.
at a bank or not.
I know
Actually,
exactly
I
what
think
you
it
mean.
depends upon how you actually execute all three of those. So the visionary could be labeled agile. The problem with visionary is you have to be able to find a path to consensus and purpose in visionary. If you can't find consensus and purpose, then you probably don't have a good result. In tactical, you have, I'll call it, a focus on execution or solutions to problems fairly quickly. The problem is, if you, again, can't get back to a team consensus and I'll call it a common focus, then the solutions you're going to come up with, in a sense, aren't going to be I'll call it tie out as a team, if you will, to probably a good end result. So each one of them has what I call their limitations that you have to manage to, I think.
What
Yeah,
about,
I think I
what,
see visionary as not so much agile, because you're really looking much longer term instead of sprint oriented. Strategic, it's more of a product manager role, something along those lines. And then tactical is the actual execution of the sprint. That would be my take on it.
okay. Um,
This
sorry,
is
give me,
great feedback. I love it.
yeah, it's good. Very good feedback.
I have a different perception about even in the agile. My experience was we play all those roles. The same person would be showing more tactical at some point of time versus more visionary, depending upon you know managing your own pillar versus collaborating, going extended help to other wheels of the car, right? You do behave differently at different points in the life cycle. That's what my experience was.
Okay. Let me ask you guys a different question. That's good feedback. What about the situation, like situational awareness? Could you apply these different leadership styles to like, so say if a server was down or environment was down, what would make sense to your leadership approach to be in that situation
Actually, all three
versus?
of those, a perfect example. But a server being down, let's say, unplanned outage, all three of those would apply, right? So the tactical is, in most cases, you need to get the thing operational and online as quickly as possible. So you go through triaging and whatever the steps are to make it available again. But second, you're going to ask yourself, what was the root cause? Are there, bigger issues to deal with as to why, in a sense that issue wasn't automatically managed? You look at a strategic thing, and you may even get into, in a sense, asking the larger community you're part of, what's the right vision for how we manage reliability, business continuity, and those kind of questions. So at different points in addressing that issue, each one of those should come up in theory, or at least map to an answer that you collectively define.
Okay.
Which one is
Jim makes a great
more
analysis on this.
associated with the blame game?
What's that?
Which
Oh,
style
there is
is
no
more
blame.
associated with the blame game?
The blame, well, so the blame game is, I'll just say it's Jack for sure. but that's simple. So now that we got past the blame game, actually the easiest thing is, especially if you have a manager you're explaining it to, you just take responsibility and say, hey, it was Jim. Good enough. Now that we know you have a focus and somebody to talk to, and let's say, hey, Jim, we don't want that to happen again. The easy thing from there is now we're past finding somebody to blame. We're past that. So the simple thing is, okay, what are we going to do about it? And so the goal is to get into the mode of how are we going to fix this, both immediate and long term. And you're right. A lot of times it's smart to, in a sense, play the person who's responsible every time and let somebody else say, well, wait a minute, maybe he wasn't responsible. Maybe it wasn't his fault. All that comes out afterward. The most immediate thing is get past, in a sense, people looking for the blame game, if you will, or to find a winner, so to speak. And I've been in companies where they look for that or they don't. But if they do look for it, just take ownership and move forward. It's fairly simple.
I think, Jim, I think
Nice.
you've made a great observation and analysis of this as a timeline. Tactical is much shorter term, strategic is medium term, and visionary is long term. And it sort of equates, if you want to equate it to different levels in the organization. The people on the line are very short term, day to day, hour to hour, sometimes week to week. Strategic is more of a manager or even director position, where you're taking, maybe 4, 6, 8 week, a couple months out, 3 or 4 months out, maybe up to a year. And a visionary is usually much longer term, which would be the vice presidents and the presidents, which are looking at it from a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road. So that's, I think, one way we could look at these different organizational styles.
So I have a question on the visionary part. I see it says safety, trust, curiosity. What is the impact of not having those three things if you're doing a tactical operation?
So, well, I'll let you guys answer, or if you want, I'll give you my insights. So the way that I see it is, if you're in a tactical situation, and you know, with the visionary, it's all about building trust with your team, and that's still part of tactical. But I think tactical is more like, you know, when I think of tactical, I think of maybe the army or something, or you know, to get things done, we need orders, we need things, structure, and
That's not the way it works in the Army. I was in the Army.
oh, okay. You know
Doesn't
better
work
than
that
I
way.
do.
So it's built on, everything is built on trust at the smallest component. So
Right.
the squad, you know, the platoon, it scale, trust has to scale. And if trust is not there, then the tactics don't work. So that's why it's kind of curious to me that, you know, if you're a visionary, if you're concerned about trust and safety and being curious, because, you know, your tactics won't operate properly if you don't have those things. And so I'm just kind of curious why that's over there and not a common leadership trait.
So can we give Jack the award, the Gold Star Award for this session? Because he brought up the biggest concept of all, the word trust.
Trust.
Absolutely.
Bigger than everything, bigger than Agile, bigger than
It
it
all
all.
begins with trust.
So I work with blockchain. Everything we do is trust, digital trust, human trust, whatever it is. The bottom line is, there's in MIT, they have actually a college called Trust Data Science. And what you realize is everything on planet Earth that involves anything more than you, and even most of what you do, involves trust. I trust that gravity will be there tomorrow. I trust the sun will come up. You know, I trust that Jack is going to do his job as my teammate, kind of a thing. So everything depends on trust, and it really helps to orient that. When I used to work at IBM, the thing I realized, my managers used to get really angry with me because they'd say, "Why aren't you going out to sell the customers computers?" I say, "Because my customers don't care about computers." So they'd get so mad. They would say, "Take these brochures." I'd say, "No." I would go out and I'd talk to my customer. And all I knew is I wanted to listen to Jack, my customer. And at the end of the first meeting, I only had a few objectives. Number one, I wanted him to have the confidence that I understood his needs. Number two, the belief that I had the ability to support those needs or resolve those needs. And three, the trust that I would actually put, if he gave me the opportunity, I would put his needs in focus and make sure I delivered on them. It was those three things. And so trust was 98% of what I did at IBM, and the rest of it was technical.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That is a lot better conversation than I thought we were going to get. I'm excited for everything that you guys said.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I mean, it was good insight. You gave us a lot of good feedback that we can leverage. And we got these, you did record, didn't you, Victoria?
Nailu's doing that.
Or Nyla? Nyla?
Yes, Nailu's doing that. Sorry, my internet's back.
Okay, so this is just putting it all together, just what we were saying, the different approaches and all the different things are evolved. I think we need to edit this and put trust as a
Across
company.
the top. Or
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. You guys gave some awesome feedback, and some notes that I took was, I love the fact that you were saying that you need to leverage sometimes you need to leverage all the leadership styles in a particular situation, or sometimes different people bringing a different leadership style to the table. Like, I think it was you, Jim, that said that you needed someone with vision at one point to handle a situation. So I think it was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for all your input, everybody.
Yeah, and then tying it all together and doing a different applying approach to different situations for situational awareness, the self-awareness and all that, all the things that we talked about kind of leads into a growth mindset, right? Because you're learning, you're adapting, and you're building your leadership capabilities, which is kind of what we started off the conversation with.
Yep.
Actually, can I throw one more thing in there? We hit on it
Sure.
indirectly, but the interesting thing, and it went back to Jack's point on the blame game, which is a really good one. If you're in a leadership position at any point, and it doesn't mean that you have the title, a working title on your business card that says leader, but just that you're leading in anything as an activity. The concept is always that if there is, I'll call it blame to be taken, you take it first. And it's only after the fact that somebody else says, no, it doesn't belong to him, or it should be shared or whatever. But always be willing to take the blame first. And then the reverse of it is always give out credit to everybody else first on the team, and support to everybody else on the team. So it's, I hate to say, if I listen to a lot of Trump speeches, he'll say, I, right? It's only I if it's something that went wrong. It's we if it's a success. You know what I mean? That,
I love it.
pronouns correctly makes a world of difference in terms of the attitude of the people you're dealing with.
So that's if you are in a leadership position. What if there is no leader in the small group and
If you
everybody's
use
peer?
those pronouns that way, you become the leader, for sure.
There's always a leader, and whether they're specifically defined as a leader,
Call it a situational
or,
leader, right?
or but there's always a leader.
But a situational one, yes. And so
Yes.
that's the whole point. If you take that perspective, you help the team forward. And even in a situational leader, this is a perfect group. So let's say this group met every week. Maybe Jack's the leader situationally the first week because he has the most ideas on the table. He leads the discussion. Maybe it's Victoria the second week. There's nothing that says we have to have one leader all the time. In a good team that's together, and going back to the Army example, in a sense, situational leadership shows up all the time. And you have to just recognize that. And the team, as they learn about each other, hopefully that's the benefit of having a team, is that you learn about each other over time and become more effective in working together based on communication.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jim, but I do have a question. Because this is a leadership class that's going to be taught. So if we were just to say something like you just said, and someone comes and says, well, if I take the blame for everything, I'm worried about getting fired, or I'm worried about getting reprimanded or something like that. So what do I do in that situation?
Well, don't do what I did.
Okay.
So this is that, remember my lesson that says LOPM, learn from other people's mistakes. So I will say I probably would have had a much longer career at IBM if I wasn't willing to take responsibility for things that went wrong. So I didn't just take responsibility for my mistakes. I took, with customers, I took responsibility for IBM's mistakes too. And so what that meant was, of course, I was going to be accountable for my own mistakes and have to correct those. But in a much larger sense, when IBM made mistakes with a customer, I told the customer, I said, here's what's going to happen. And I didn't properly always consult with my superiors, and had a very different career path at IBM because of that. So a perfect example, Coca-Cola had a computer that failed, and IBM had tried for months to get the thing working, and we couldn't. So the marketing rep and I just went over there. We were the two youngest people in the office. And we just said to the president of the local bottling company, we said, oh, well, we have one of those computers. We're just going to give you our computer until yours is working right. He goes, that sounds right. So then we had to go back to IBM and explain how we had just given away one of IBM's computers out of their data center to a customer without anybody's approval whatsoever. It was like two privates in the Army saying, we're giving an M1 tank to a police force or whatever with nobody's approval. But we stuck IBM with it, and they lived up to it. So,
well, that's intent-based leadership, right?
Yeah, that would be more tactical.
Absolutely.
No, that is not tactical.
You would think that's strategic?
That is
That's visionary.
strategic.
Visionary?
That's correct. That is a thing. There is a thing called commander's intent, and it is it is a strategic direction.
That's I was thinking.
And that is all it's meant to be. It's supposed to be a clear direction and you are meant to use it in interpreting your situation and then taking appropriate action to carry out that intent.
I have a,
Does that make sense?
yes, it does. And
Yes.
I actually have a concrete visionary example I can give you. So
Sure.
with an IBM customer, we had software we delivered that was, we had contracted to deliver a certain level of software functionality. What actually showed up was less than 40% of what we had signed the customer up for by contract. So we actually didn't have the software. So I took control of the customer. I apologized for IBM and myself for having delivered what I call a completely unusable product. And then I struck a deal with the customer and said, here's the deal. I'll take over the computer room. This will be mine. I will do everything it takes, however long it takes to get that thing operational. At the end of it, we had a problem where I had to go to a doctor visit and I couldn't be there on a Saturday at one point. So I knew something was going to break. And I said to the guy who was going to cover for me at the customer side, I said, call IBM. Here's the hotline to get this thing fixed. They're not going to talk to you. So I said, what I want you to do is when they tell you you're a customer and you can't talk to these people, you have to go through all this level stuff. I said, tell the secretary that your systems engineer told them that you were going to take your computer out in the parking lot, pour gas on it, set it on fire, and send a picture to the New York Times. And just tell him it was your systems engineer, Jim Mason. So he said, it's amazing. I said exactly what you did. And they had a very clear vision of what that was going to do. And they immediately put me through to the person that could solve the problem. So you're right. Sometimes you have to step back and see the larger impact of something as a situation and then communicate that out to get a response.
Wow.
Any more feedback or comments or examples for any of these other leadership styles? Who haven't we heard from? Ming or Patrice, maybe?
How are we on time, Victoria?
I think Nelu said we have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Do we want to try to do the last self-awareness question?
Sure, we can. It only takes a couple of minutes to do the poll.
Okay, let's try that. So we realize that, you know, the questions that we ask and how everything starts, well, trust is key, right? But self-awareness is a good path to leadership. So we want to know, what does self-awareness mean to you? That's our question.
I can take the first stab at it.
Okay. Does everybody have access to the poll EV as well?
No, where is the poll?
The link should have been out. It was in the chat earlier. Nelu, can you put it back?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Let me share it. Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay. There it is. I've got it. Thanks.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Starting to get some reflection, adaption. Okay.
Are we supposed to write something here? I'm sorry, I didn't see the
Yeah, if
instructions.
you can get to the poll EV. If not, then feel free
Yeah,
to.
Can you get to the chat? That's where the link is. If not, we're going to talk about it after.
Oh,
Oh, wow. Look at that. It just went crazy. I love it. Perspectives. I like the feelings one. That's important. Go back up. Yep.
Oh, we didn't even do our definition. Let me do
Well,
the definition real
we're
quick
going
while
to get theirs first, and then we could talk
Oh.
about this for a second.
Okay.
And that didn't really do so well in the cloud. It may be, yeah.
My internet's still down.
Yeah, mine is in and out because the storm is here. It blew over my plants. So let's talk about it. Madhavi, you have something to share?
Are you mute?
No, she's not mute. Oh, now she.
Sorry, I was going back and forth.
It's okay,
So,
Masabi.
self-awareness, at least I would see as mostly as a reflection. As a leader, I bet we have to reflect ourselves before we dive into more and more of bringing a change, right?
Nice.
So I would always think between the truth and the fact. We get confused between establishing the facts as a truth, and we believe that the facts that we perceive as the truths and try to drive that as a leader, right? With having some bigger titles in the organizations. That's something I always want to make sure that let me take it back, a few steps back, and reflect upon it. Am I driving towards the fact or the truth? If I don't know it is the truth, then I would be open more to listening and finding more, just not relying on the fact. The reason behind is the facts that we established today may not be facts in the next few weeks or months. That keeps changing.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. And in the next couple of minutes, especially in IT, things change quickly. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Anybody
So
else have some?
is self-awareness an internal focused thing or an external focused thing?
Great question. I believe it's both. You have to have an internal sense of who you really are. And then at the same time, if hopefully I have the ability to, in a sense, through feedback, communication, everything else, get a sense of how others see me as well. Because I certainly can't be effective in my role if I don't understand how you view me. So it's important.
So what's the difference between emotional intelligence and social intelligence then?
Social intelligence says you understand reactions. Sorry, and I'll simplify. I'll get this wrong, but I'll say my experience looking at my granddaughters is they're highly socially intelligent in the sense that they can read other people's feelings in a group very quickly and accurately. That's great. The reverse of it is emotional intelligence, I think, sometimes asks for more than that, in the sense that, let's say Victoria and I are in a team together, and I'm trying to, in a sense, complete a task that she's assigned me or whatever, but I'm not understanding from her perspective what exactly she's looking for. Going back to your VUCA, challenges kind of a thing. I have to be able to really read not what Victoria says to me, which is useful and important, but I have to be able to read what she doesn't say to me. And some people are naturally good at that. I am not. So I can tell you, on scores, I'll just score myself and say, nope, he does.
Out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're out. Yeah.
Countdown happened.